So for years, Donald Trump had suggested that the FBI was out to get him, that they had colluded with the Clinton campaign, they had colluded with the Obama administration, that the deep state had basically subverted his presidency. He said that it was the greatest scandal in American history, and it appears he was right. Special counsel John Durham had been given the mandate to investigate the origins of the Trump-Russia collusion hoax. This was the story that generated 1 million think pieces. It generated 1,000 Pulitzers. It was a story that originated in 2016, and it lasted throughout the Trump presidency. It led to the Mueller investigation. It led to one of the impeachment charges. And now, Special Counsel John Durham, who is given, again, remit by Bill Barr, who is the Attorney General under Donald Trump, to investigate exactly where this investigation came from, considering it came up with pretty much nothing. He now has issued a 300-page report about where this investigation came from. It is absolutely shocking. It is damning. It is apparent that everyone in the FBI knew that this investigation was bullcrap right up front. It was very clear the the Clinton campaign was using the FBI to launder into public view and into law enforcement a bunch of bad allegations. It was clear that upper echelons of the Obama administration knew all of this was happening. Essentially, in an attempt to thwart the pending 2016 election and then the results of the 2016 election, the FBI and its top officials, in coordination with members of the Obama administration and then just sort of internally inside the Trump administration, decided that they were going to leak, issue report after report, initiate investigations that were nonsense. And they were going to do all of this because Trump had to be stopped. He was just that dangerous. And Hillary Clinton was going to lead the way and her campaign was going to lead the way. That is the essential result of the John Durham report. It's an insane report. So according to the Washington Post, the report, coming almost 4 years to the day since Durham's assignment began, will probably be derided by Democrats as the end of a partisan boondoggle. Republicans will have to wrestle with a much-touted investigation that has cost taxpayers more than $6.5 million and didn't send a single person to jail. But here's the reality. People should go to jail over this because this is nuts. This is nuts. So we're going to go through a lot of the executive summary of this report. Again, it's 300 pages. We'll go through a few of the other aspects of the report. But what it uncovers is one of the most shocking scandals in American history. To think that the FBI could actually be activated on behalf of one of the campaigns. Well, that campaign was associating with the party in power, with the Obama administration, and that was going to be used as the predicate for a wide-scale investigation that lasted years on end and cost the American taxpayers tens of millions of dollars, all because people hated Donald Trump and found him threatening and upsetting, is totally insane. You want to talk about the destruction of all of America's fundamental trust in our institutions? 2016 is the year it began, and it has not abated ever since. And everybody who even had a shred of trust in our institutions, you look at stories like this and you think, how could you have trust in our institutions after stuff like this? So the Durham report begins by asking a few questions. Quote, was there adequate predication for the FBI to open the Crossfire Hurricane investigation from its inception on July 31st, 2016, as a full Counterintelligence and Foreign Agents Registration Act investigation, given the requirements of the AG's guidelines and the FBI policies? So in other words, was there any reason to even open the Crossfire Hurricane investigation? Crossfire Hurricane was the name given to the investigation into Trump-Russia collusion. Durham also asked, was the opening of Crossfire Hurricane as a full investigation on July 31st, 2016, consistent with how the FBI had handled other intelligence it had received prior to July 31st, 2016, concerning attempts by foreign interests to influence the Clinton and other campaigns? In other words, were they specifically going out of their way to target Trump, or was it just they were hitting Hillary and they were hitting Trump and they hit everybody? Third question, did the FBI properly consider other highly significant intelligence it received at virtually the same time as that used to predicate Crossfire Hurricane, but which related not to the Trump campaign, but rather to a purported Clinton campaign plan to vilify Donald Trump by stirring up a scandal claiming interference by Russian security services, which might have shed some light on the Russia information the FBI was receiving from third parties? In other words, was the FBI using bad information, and did they know it was bad information when they were using it as the predicate for the Crossfire Hurricane investigation? And did they know that a lot of that information was originating with the Clinton campaign? Was there evidence that the actions of any FBI personnel or third parties relating to Crossfire Hurricane violated any federal criminal statutes? And was there evidence that the actions of the FBI or department personnel in providing false or incomplete information to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court violated any federal criminal statutes? Durham says our findings and conclusions regarding these and related questions are sobering. So here is what they find. They say, as set forth in greater detail, the record in this matter reflects that upon receipt of unevaluated intelligence information from Australia, the FBI swiftly opened the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. In particular, at the direction of Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, Deputy Assistant Director for Counterintelligence Peter Strzok opened Crossfire Hurricane immediately. Now, you'll remember both of these people ended up leaving the FBI ignominiously. So Andrew McCabe ended up being thrown out of the FBI because he had leaked information, apparently to the Wall Street Journal, surrounding the Hillary Clinton investigation. So he was fired. And Peter Strzok, of course, had this love affair. He was a married man. Lisa Page was another married person. They're having an affair with each other, and they were texting each other throughout Crossfire Hurricane about how Trump basically had to be stopped. So these were the people who opened Crossfire Hurricane. Strzok, at a minimum, says John Durham, had pronounced hostile feelings toward Trump. The matter was opened as a full investigation without ever having spoken to the persons who provided the information. Further, the FBI did so without any significant review of its own intelligence databases, collection and examination of any relevant intelligence from other U.S. intelligence agencies, interviews of witnesses essential to understand the raw information it had received, or using any of the standard analytical tools typically employed by the FBI in evaluating raw intelligence. So in other words, they didn't use any of the tools usually used in order to evaluate whether raw intelligence was worthy of opening an investigation or not. They just launched it. In fact, Durham says, had they done any of these things, the FBI would have learned that their own experienced Russia analysts had no information about Trump being involved with Russian leadership officials, nor were others in sensitive positions at the CIA, NSA, and Department of State aware of such evidence concerning the subject. In addition, FBI records prepared by Peter Strzok in February and March 2017 show that at the time of the opening of Crossfire Hurricane, the FBI had no information in its holdings, indicating that at any time during the campaign, anyone in the Trump campaign had been in contact with any Russian intelligence officials. So again, that is according to FBI records prepared by Strzok in February and March 2017, showing that the previous year when they launched the investigation, they had not like some things, not some thin things, nothing. Zero things that were credible intelligence. Zero. And they opened a full-scale investigation into the Trump campaign on the basis of nothing. Literally nothing. That's astonishing. Astonishing and frightening. Because again, the FBI is the chief law enforcement agency of the federal government, the investigative law enforcement agency of the federal government. It is absolute madness to suggest that you should be able to open an investigation on this basis. How exactly would that even work? And the answer is, of course, well, if you have agents and the agents have power, they can do whatever the hell they want. I mean, if you're talking about Watergate, which was the federal government at the behest of Richard Nixon, him issuing agents to go and investigate his political opponents by breaking into the Watergate Hotel, what's worse, that or activating the entire FBI in order to aid your former Secretary of State's administration campaign in preparation for the 2016 campaign, which it appears is what happened here, is that Barack Obama's FBI, led by James Comey, under the auspices of people like Peter Strzok, decided to open a full-scale investigation at the behest of the Clinton campaign while she was running for president of the United States, on the basis of no evidence, none. As it turns out, not only on the basis of no evidence, knowing pretty much full well that the Clinton campaign had originated this nonsense in the first place. We'll get to more on this in a second. It's absolutely maddening and insane. First, remember the last time you got a free phone? Well, you started out feeling really good, and then came the hefty activation fees, the 4-line requirements, and of course, the binding contract. Pure Talk is giving you a free 5G Samsung Galaxy phone without the feeling that you've actually been duped. When you switch to Pure Talk's unlimited talk and text data plan, that comes with a mobile hotspot, you get a 5G as little as 10 minutes. I was even able to keep my phone number. Go to puretalk.com/Shapiro. Get your free Samsung Galaxy when you sign up for unlimited talk, text, and unlimited data. That's puretalk.com/Shapiro. Pure Talk, wireless for Americans, by Americans. Again, they're on the same big 5G network as one of the big guys. So there's no reason. You lose nothing and you save a lot of money, and you're using a company that doesn't hate your guts. Go check them out right now. Again, that is puretalk.com/Shapiro to get started. Okay, so the Durham report continues. The speed and manner in which the FBI opened and investigated Crossfire Hurricane during the presidential election season based on raw, unanalyzed, and uncorroborated intelligence also reflected a noticeable departure from how it approached prior matters involving possible attempted foreign election interference plans aimed at the Clinton campaign. In the 18 months leading up to the 2016 election, the FBI was required to deal with a number of proposed investigations that had the potential of affecting the election. In each of those instances, the FBI moved with considerable caution. In one such matter, FBI headquarters and department officials required defensive briefings to be provided to Hillary Clinton and other officials or candidates who appeared to be the targets of foreign interference. In other words, the FBI found out that somebody was trying to influence the Clinton campaign. Instead of immediately investigating whether Hillary was corrupt and working with those people, they went and they warned Hillary. In another, the FBI elected to end an investigation after one of its longtime and valuable CHSs went beyond what was authorized and made an improper and possibly illegal financial contribution to the Clinton campaign on behalf of a foreign entity, as a precursor to a much larger donation being contemplated. In a third situation, the Clinton Foundation matter, both senior FBI and department officials placed restrictions on how those matters were to be handled, such that essentially no investigative activities occurred for months leading up to the elections. They shut down the investigation into the Clinton Foundation, like period, end of story, because of the election. These examples, says John Durham, are markedly different from the FBI's actions with respect to other highly significant intelligence it received from a trusted foreign source pointing to a Clinton campaign plan to vilify Trump by tying him to Vladimir Putin, so as to divert attention from her own concerns relating to her use of a private email server. Unlike the FBI's opening of a full investigation of unknown matters of the Trump campaign based on raw, uncorroborated information, in this separate matter involving a purported Clinton campaign plan, the FBI never opened any type of inquiry, issued any taskings, employed any analytical personnel, produced any analytical product in connection with the information. So in other words, they were informed that the Clinton camp was putting forward lies about how Donald Trump was tied to Vladimir Putin via a secret server or something. And instead of the FBI investigating the allegation that the Clinton campaign was planting this sort of information, they just didn't open anything. They just let it die. This lack of action was despite the fact that the significance of the Clinton plan intelligence was such as to have prompted the director of the CIA to brief the president, vice president, AG, director of the FBI, and other senior government officials about its content within days of receipt. It was also of enough importance for the CIA to send a formal written referral memorandum to Director Comey and Deputy Assistant Director of the FBI's Counterintelligence Division, Peter Strzok, for their consideration and action. The investigative referral provides examples of information the Crossfire Hurricane Fusion Cell had gleaned to date. Okay, so in other words, if it hurt Hillary Clinton, they just didn't investigate it. If it hurt Donald Trump, not only did they investigate it, they launched a full-scale investigation that lasted for years on end and led to the unlawful surveillance of Carter Page, led to the thinly predicated, actually, as it turns out, unpredicated Mueller investigation based on nothing. Again, I can't stress this enough. Nothing here, according to John Durham. Nothing. Now, the fact that nobody is going to jail because the standards for criminal conduct required in order to send somebody to jail may not have been met does not alleviate the responsibility of the FBI here, nor does it make anyone feel better about the FBI. I mean, the fact is the FBI and the DOJ would be a lot better off right now if they actually went and prosecuted some of these people, put some heads on spikes, and showed people that they were never going to let the FBI do this again. As we'll see, the FBI is already saying we fixed the problem. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure you fixed the problem. So the Durham report continues. Within days after opening Crossfire Hurricane, the FBI opened full investigations on 4 members of the Trump campaign team: George Papadopoulos, Carter Page, Paul Manafort, and Michael Flynn. No defensive briefing was ever provided to Trump. So unlike Hillary Clinton, where they were saying, well, if there's foreign influence, let's warn Hillary so she doesn't get caught up in it, they never even informed Donald Trump. They didn't inform anyone in the campaign. Instead, the FBI began working on requests for the use of FISA authorities against Page and Papadopoulos. The effort as related to Papadopoulos proved unsuccessful. Similarly, the initial effort directed at Page was unsuccessful until the Crossfire Hurricane investigators first obtained what were designated as company intelligence reports generated by Christopher Steele. The Steele reports were first provided to the FBI in early July 2016, but for unexplained reasons only made their way to the Crossfire Hurricane investigators in mid-September. Those reports were ostensibly assembled based on information provided to Steele and his company by a primary subsource. The FBI eventually determined in December 2016 that primary subsource was Igor Danchenko, who it turns out was completely full of crap. Our investigation determined, says John Durham, that Crossfire Hurricane investigators did not and could not corroborate any of the substantive allegations contained in the Steele reporting. Nor was Steele able to produce corroboration for any of the reported allegations, even after being offered $1 million or more by the FBI for such corroboration. Danchenko was unable to corroborate any of the substantive allegations in the reports. Instead, he said that the stuff he gave to Christopher Steele was rumor and speculation and the product of casual conversation. Again, didn't stop the FBI from going into full-scale investigative mode on Papadopoulos, on Carter Page, going and getting badly and unpredicated FISA warrants on all of this. Their investigation, says Durham, resulted in the prosecution and conviction of an FBI OGC attorney for intentionally falsifying a document that was material to the FISA court's consideration of one of the Page FISA applications. Okay, there is much more where this comes from, and we're going to get into it in just one second. Because again, this is one of the most shocking scandals in the history of American law enforcement. The attempt to overturn one campaign, to destroy a campaign in progress, and then to overturn a presidency based on nothing, is absolutely astonishing. And the fact that these people now have contracts over at CNN, MSNBC as commentators, it just shows the corrupt media Democrat complex and the fact that that has now infused itself into the deepest bones of our law enforcement agencies. It's scary as all hell. We'll get to more on this in just one second. First, when you're running a business, your employees can create all kinds of interesting situations, as the heads of the FBI are learning at this moment. This is why you need to talk to Bambi. Bambi gives you access to your own dedicated HR manager starting at just $99 a month. This person is available to you by phone, email, and real-time chat. They'll help you run employee onboardings, terminations, and performance reviews. Steele described himself as a former intel official for the British government. Also, he was at that time an FBI informant. Beginning in July 2016 and continuing through December 2016, the FBI received a series of reports from Steele and his firm containing derogatory information about Trump concerning the Trump-Russia purported ties. These reports were colloquially referred to as the Steele dossier or Steele reports. As noted, it was not until mid-September that Crossfire Hurricane investigators received several of these Steele reports. Within days of their receipt, the unvetted, unverified Steele reports were used to support probable cause for the FISA application against Carter Page. By the way, at the time, the FBI already knew that the same information Steele had provided to the FBI had also been fed to the media and others in Washington, D.C. So they already knew that Steele was leaking this stuff and also providing it to the FBI. In particular, one allegation contained in an undated Steele report identified as 2016-095 described a well-developed conspiracy of cooperation between Trump, his campaign, and senior Russian officials. This allegation would underpin the 4 applications targeting Carter Page, and of course, they were nonsense. As noted, the FBI attempted over time to investigate and analyze those Steele reports, but ultimately, they were not able to confirm or corroborate any of the substantive allegations contained. And again, as already noted, Igor Danchenko, who was the lead source for the Steele dossier, admitted that basically he was just making things up. The FBI knew in January 2017 Danchenko had been the subject of an FBI counterintelligence investigation from 2009 to 2011. So they already knew that he was not a reliable source. They used him anyway. Also, Danchenko had a relationship with Charles Dolan, a Virginia-based public relations professional who had previously held multiple positions and roles in the DNC. And basically, at the time that Danchenko was collecting information for Steele, Dolan traveled to Moscow, and so did Danchenko, in connection with a business conference. The business conference was held at the Ritz-Carlton, Moscow. According to the Steele reports, this was allegedly the site of the infamous P-tape allegation. The P-tape, of course, was the ridiculous allegation that Donald Trump paid prostitutes to urinate upon him in a Ritz-Carlton hotel in Moscow. It was insane, a ridiculous allegation. Danchenko would later inform the FBI he learned of the allegations through Ritz-Carlton staff members, but apparently it was not actually Danchenko who learned of it. It was Dolan. So Dolan, who was a lawyer for the DNC, made up the allegations or heard a rumor and then fed it to Danchenko, who then fed it to Christopher Steele, who then fed it to the FBI. That's where the P-tape garbage came from. The FBI then did not bother to even interview Charles Dolan about any of this. They didn't even bother to interview him. According to this report from, again, John Durham, all of the allegations were basically made up out of whole cloth by people associated with the Clinton campaign. Pretty much all of them. Based on the review of Crossfire Hurricane and related intelligence activities, Durham concludes in the executive summary, we conclude that the department and the FBI failed to uphold their important mission of strict fidelity to the law in connection with certain events and activities described in this report. And then they note a few people who had actually done criminal things. But he goes further. Our investigation revealed that senior FBI personnel displayed a serious lack of analytical rigor toward the information they received, especially information received from politically affiliated persons and entities. This information in part triggered and sustained Crossfire Hurricane and contributed to the subsequent need for Special Counsel Mueller's investigation. In particular, there was significant reliance on investigative leads provided or funded directly or indirectly by Trump's political opponents. The department did not adequately examine or question these materials and the motivations of anyone providing them, even when at about the same time the director and the FBI and others learned of significant and potentially contrary intelligence. So then they go into recommendations and they suggest, well, there's a few bad apples and all of the rest. Well, no, this went all the way throughout the FBI, obviously, because literally all the people we're talking about are the heads of the FBI. By the way, it's not as though the Clinton administration, it's not as though the Obama administration was unaware of all of this. The Obama administration and the FBI were fully aware of the Clinton campaign plan to plant all this information. And they went ahead with it anyway, which is totally crazy. We'll get to that momentarily. First, the simple fact of the matter is the only thing that is keeping me functional right now is my Bull and Branch sheets and blankets. That is like literally it. So last night, 4:30 in the morning, my 3-year-old comes traipsing in because, I don't know why she's awake, whatever, she's 3. And she came in and she said, because again, this is a 300-page long report from John Durham, that there are some pretty extraordinary details. So for example, apparently, according to this report, the office considered as part of its investigation the government's handling of intelligence it received during the summer of 2016. That intelligence concerned the purported approval by Hillary Clinton on July 26, 2016, of a proposal from one of her foreign policy advisors to vilify Donald Trump by stirring up a scandal claiming interference by the Russian security services. We refer to that intelligence hereinafter as the Clinton Plan Intelligence. DNI, Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, declassified the following information about the Clinton plan intelligence in September of 2020 and conveyed it to the Senate Judiciary Committee. So here we are talking about Hillary Clinton's plan, which was approved by Hillary Clinton, apparently personally, in July of 2016, to make up allegations about Donald Trump and Russia, or at the very least, to use rumor as verified fact in order to slander Donald Trump. So here's what they found out. In late July 2016, U.S. intelligence agencies obtained insight into Russian intelligence analysis, alleging that Hillary Clinton had approved a campaign plan to stir up a scandal against Trump by tying him to Putin and the Russian hacking of the DNC. The IC does not know the accuracy of this allegation or the extent to which the Russian intelligence analysis may reflect exaggeration or fabrication. According to his handwritten notes, CIA Director Brennan subsequently briefed Barack Obama and other senior national security officials on that intelligence, including the alleged approval by Hillary Clinton on July 26, 2016 of a proposal from one of her foreign policy advisors to vilify Donald Trump by stirring up a scandal claiming interference by Russian security services. Okay, so just to understand what this allegation is, basically, we know that the original Crossfire Hurricane investigation was launched directly around this time. By the way, July 26th, there was a meeting on a tarmac between Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch, the Attorney General. Like literally the day after July 26th, which is when the Barack Obama team was informed about Hillary Clinton's plan to basically falsify an allegation about Donald Trump and Russia. I mean, this is insane stuff. So the Obama administration knew full well, again, the Crossfire Hurricane was legally launched July 31st, 2016. July 31st, 2016. Now, you may notice that July 31st, 2016 is 5 days after July 26th, 2016. And on July 26th, 2016, again, there was approval by Hillary Clinton that day for the proposal to smear Trump. 5 days later, there's an FBI investigation into Donald Trump and Russian interference. And apparently, again, you know who's briefed on this? Barack Obama. And at this point, did the Obama administration step in and say to the FBI, guys, hey, hold up. We got to abide by the law here. The FBI and DOJ cannot launch investigations into the rival of our former Secretary of State, especially now that we know that she's attempting to get us to launch an investigation into her rival. Nope. They just went ahead with it. They just went ahead. This is insane. Apparently, according to John Ratcliffe's letter, quote, in late July 2016, U.S. intelligence agencies obtained insight into Russian intelligence analysis alleging that Hillary had approved that campaign plan. And again, on August 3rd, 2016, within days of receiving the Clinton plan intelligence, Director Brennan met with the president, VP, and other administration officials, including but not limited to the AG and the FBI director. According to Brennan's handwritten notes and his recollections from the meeting, he briefed on relevant intelligence known to date on Russian election interference, including the Clinton plan intelligence. Specifically, Director Brennan's declassified handwritten notes reflect that he briefed the meeting's participants regarding the alleged approval by Hillary, July 26th, of a proposal from one of her campaign advisors to vilify Trump by stirring up a scandal. So, approval July 26th by Hillary. Let's start up a scandal. July 31st, Crossfire Hurricane is launched. August 3rd, the Obama administration, including Barack Obama, is personally briefed. And it goes ahead anyway. Does that sound like maybe there was a bit of collusion here? You want to talk about collusion? Collusion between the Hillary Clinton campaign, the leaders of the FBI, and the Obama White House? Is that what that sounds like there? Because that's what it sounds like to me. I mean, that sounds significantly worse. You know, when Richard Nixon launched the Watergate scandal, he didn't use the FBI to go wiretap. He had like a special team that he used to go wiretap. Okay, this using the actual law enforcement investigative agency of the United States of America to investigate allegations against a person you hate. Barack Obama hates Donald Trump. A person you hate who is the chief political rival of your former Secretary of State and the banner carrier of your party in the upcoming election is an extraordinary scandal for everyone, for Obama, for Clinton, for the FBI. And it's also one of the reasons why you look around and you say, why don't people trust our elections? Why don't people trust our law enforcement agencies? Why is there so much institutional distrust? Because how could you trust this? This is insane. This is totally crazy. According to the Durham report, the office was unable to determine precisely when the FBI first obtained any of the details of the Clinton plan intelligence. It appears, however, this occurred no later than August 22nd, 2016. Well, hold up. I mean, on August 3rd, we already know that the CIA director was meeting with the president, VP, and FBI director to discuss Russian election interference efforts, and this included the Clinton plan. So it wasn't August 22nd. It was way earlier. It was like August 3rd. And nobody at any point actually stepped in and said, guys, this seems really sketchy. Like, should we be using the FBI to investigate Donald Trump on the basis of nothing? On the basis of nothing? There are other details in the report as well. As Luke Rosiak points out over at the Daily Wire, days after opening a full FBI investigation into the connections between Trump and Russia, the lead FBI investigator, Peter Strzok, again, he's the one who hated Donald Trump, was texting with his lover, Lisa Page, about how much they hated Trump, told his subordinate, he said, quote, "There's nothing to this, but we have to run it to the ground." Strzok opened the investigation, skipping the preliminary steps based on nothing but that brief and vague account by an Australian diplomat of a conversation in a London bar. And apparently there was nothing to it. Nothing, and Strzok knew there was nothing to it. I mean, this is wild. The simple fact that everyone knew, the FBI's assistant legal attaché in London told the special counsel British intelligence agencies did not assess the information about the Russians and Trump attributed to Papadopoulos to be particularly valuable. In fact, that assistant legal attaché in London, which the acronym is ALAT, apparently told the FBI's inspection division investigators the British couldn't even believe that the Papadopoulos bar conversation was all there was. The FBI specialists on Russia had also heard nothing about ties between Trump and Russia. FBI officials in London assumed there was much more evidence because of Strzok's urgency, but it became quickly clear there was not. But still, they said they had to grease the skids because of pressure from top leadership. So leadership was like, we got to push this thing, man. We got to push it. Because they had to stop it. It's absolute madness. Absolute madness. So basically, the Clinton campaign used the FBI in accordance with the Obama administration in order to go after Donald Trump. And this didn't just last through the campaign. It lasted all the way into Donald Trump's presidency. It led to the Mueller report, which ended up being a big nothing burger filled with nothing burgers. Even Jake, okay, so the media, so here's the FBI's response. Wonder why we don't trust the FBI, guys? Here's the reason. I mean, there are systemic problems at the FBI. They put out a statement, quote, "The conduct in 2016 and 2017 that special counsel Durham examined was the reason that current FBI leadership already implemented dozens of corrective actions, which have now been in place for some time. Had those reforms been in place in 2016, the missteps identified in the report could have been prevented. This report reinforces the importance of ensuring the FBI continues to do its work with the rigor, objectivity, and professionalism the American people deserve and rightly expect." Oh, well, I mean, problem solved. Problem solved, guys. I mean, they fixed it already. Well, isn't that good news? That's amazing. Well, count me a little suspicious because the upper echelon of the FBI at this time was Andy McCabe, ended up being fired. Peter Strzok ended up being fired. James Comey ended up being fired. Like the entire leadership class of the FBI was involved in this particular thing because it was so politically sensitive. And we're supposed to believe that it's all been fixed now? These are not missteps. It is not a misstep when you ignore all relevant regulations that are designed to prevent the opening of false investigations in order to go after Donald Trump at the behest of the Clinton, and you knew it was the Clinton campaign. It wasn't even like they were clever about it. They were using intel funneled through Fusion GPS to their own lawyers and then funneled to the FBI. And again, there was a report involving the director of the FBI. He was on the line when John Brennan reported that the Clinton campaign plan was to wrap all this up in a ball and present it. And at no point was somebody like, well, you know what? Maybe we should check that out. Maybe we should check out whether this whole thing is like a Clinton plant. Because 2 phone calls would have found out that it was. All they had to do was call 4 people. All they had to do was figure out was it Igor Danchenko? Was it Christopher Steele? All of this was a couple phone calls away, and they didn't do any of it. Instead, got to dig down. FISA warrant on Carter Page. FISA warrant on George Papadopoulos. Go after them all. And that says to me? It says to me that this is a weaponized law enforcement mechanism against a particular political candidate. That's what this was. Absolutely astonishing stuff. And the media, of course, some in the media are attempting to downplay it. Jake Tapper, to his credit, he says that this report is devastating to the FBI. Well, I mean, Jake was lied to by people like Peter Schiff for years. So I'd love to see Jake apply his standards of who gets to come on his show to people like Schiff, like Adam Schiff, the lying, ridiculous congressperson from California. Here's Jake Tapper last night.
Regardless, the report is now here. It has dropped, and it might not have produced everything of what some Republicans hoped for. It is, regardless, devastating to the FBI, and to a degree, it does exonerate Donald Trump.
Not to a degree. It exonerates him. I mean, I don't know what there is that doesn't exonerate Donald Trump. Which part is he not exonerated on? That the FBI was not going out. I mean, the FBI was going after him. That the Clinton campaign was not working. They were working with the FBI. That the Obama administration knew about. They did know about it. Like, which part doesn't exonerate Trump there? It all exonerates Trump. And again, we were lied to for years. For years, we were lied to by people who were associated with the FBI, by people who were by Democrats in Congress who knew Adam Schiff was a liar. But I mean, like, here's Adam Schiff in 2017 telling Jake Tapper that the evidence of Russian collusion is damning. They played this string all the way out for years on end in order to smear Trump, in order to hamstring his presidency. It's disgusting. I mean, vile and disgusting. Here's Adam Schiff.
The Russians offered help. The campaign accepted help. The Russians gave help, and the president made full use of that help. And that is pretty damning, whether it is proof beyond a reasonable doubt of conspiracy or not.
He's a liar. He's a liar, and he knew he was a liar. He'd seen all this stuff, too. They were all lying. And by the way, they're still lying. Andrew Weissman was a lawyer under Robert Mueller. Right? He was the chief lawyer working under Robert Mueller in the Mueller report. So here was his reaction to a report showing what amounts to collusion between the Clinton campaign, the Obama administration, and the FBI. Here is his response to that.
What was it like to have your probe investigated for 4 years?
So we were very aware, as I'm sure Pete Strzok and people at the Bureau before us were very aware, that there was going to be an investigation of us. And you know what? Our view of that was fine. There is a false equivalency because you have an enormous number of cases which were proved where there, as you pointed out, there are convictions, where there is a there. Russia interfered in the 2016 election. They're continuing to interfere. There are people who've gone to jail who are rightly found guilty. And what you have with John Durham is, like, it's a big fat nothing. And it reminds me of the sort of weaponization hearings that are going on, where there also is, they're just falling flat on their face because there is no there.
How is it? It's a 300-page report saying the Mueller report was based on nothing. And that you guys spent tens of millions of dollars going after the president of the United States for no reason other than Hillary Clinton originally initiated this investigation in coordination with the FBI and in coordination with the Obama administration. And it's a nothing burger to you? That's a nothing burger? Of course it is. Because, of course, you're part of the system. You're part of the system. If your takeaway from this is trust the system did its job, I don't know what the hell to tell you. CNN, of course, aside from Tapper, again, credit to Jake for acknowledging what is due there. CNN is like, well, the report doesn't mention the deep state. If it doesn't mention the deep state.
I assume that Trump and his allies are going to claim complete exoneration from this report.
This report doesn't refer to the deep state necessarily, but that's not going to stop Donald Trump from saying the deep state was out to get him. We've also seen House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan already come out and say he wants John Durham to testify next week. And look, Republicans, especially Jim Jordan, have made a big deal about trying to investigate what they call the so-called weaponization of the federal government in who they decide to prosecute, how they decide to prosecute. So they're going to use this to fit into their narrative.
Oh, it's the Republicans pounce, according to CNN. And the Republicans are pouncing. That's the big problem here. Not that the government was weaponized on behalf of Hillary Clinton's campaign and against Donald Trump. There was no deep state because it didn't use the words deep state. Slow clap for the geniuses over at CNN. Really genius level stuff. We'll get to Donald Trump's response to all this in just 1 second. First, when you're looking for a job, it can be tough to stand out from all the other candidates. On the flip side, when you're hiring, it can be tough to find the right person for that job. This is why you need the magic of ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter helps you find the most qualified people for your roles fast. Right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. ZipRecruiter's matching technology helps you find the most qualified candidates for a wide range of roles. If you see a candidate you like, you can easily send them a personal invite so they're more likely to apply. Their user-friendly dashboard makes it easy to filter, review, and rate your candidates all from one place. Let ZipRecruiter help you find the best people for all your roles. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within day one. See for yourself. Head over to ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire to try ZipRecruiter for free. Again, that is ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. ZipRecruiter is the smartest way to hire. That's why we've been using it here at Daily Wire ourselves for years. A bunch of our best employees came courtesy of ZipRecruiter. They can do the same for your business. They make it easy for good employees to find great employers and vice versa. Head on over to ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire and try it out for free right now. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. It is the smartest way to hire. Also, if you're looking for something interesting to watch, you should check out our series, What We Saw, hosted by storyteller Bill Whittle. Season 1 is focused on Apollo 11. Season 2 of What We Saw is now in full swing. This time, Bill paints a bleak picture of the growing existential threat to America due to Soviet Russia and Cuba. In episode 10, we're transported to Vietnam and the Gulf of Tonkin, where North Vietnamese torpedo boats attack the USS Maddox, plunging us further into the Cold War. How big a price will we pay in our efforts to prevent communism from spreading outside Vietnam? Bill makes you feel like you're there witnessing history. Check out Cold War right now. You have to be a member. Go to dailywire.com/Cold War to start watching. Okay, meanwhile, so Donald Trump has now responded to the Durham report, and in a series of posts on Truth Social, he said, after extensive research, Special Counsel John Durham concluded the FBI never should have launched the Trump-Russia probe. In other words, the American public was scammed, just as it is being scammed right now by those who don't want to see greatness for America. The Durham report spells out in great detail how the Democratic hoax that was perpetrated upon me and the American people, this is 2020 presidential election fraud, just like stuffing the ballot boxes, only more so. This totally illegal act had a huge impact on the election. With an honest media, we are looking at the crime of the century. And then he continued to go after other members of the FBI. Treason, all capital letters, triple exclamation point. Congress must do something about this. Must never happen again. Now, you certainly understand his outrage. I don't, by the way, see the necessity of him linking together, quote unquote, stuffing the ballot boxes. But yes, I mean, if you're talking about rigging an election, one of the ways that you rig an election, and the informal way of doing so, is by spilling out into public view a bunch of garbage allegations designed. This really wasn't 2020 election fraud. It was 2016 election fraud. It was an attempt to take down Trump in 2016, and that continued all the way throughout his presidency. It's absolute insanity. So the question now is what exactly we do about it. The answer, of course, is that we need to elect a Republican president, and he needs to fire everyone. He needs to clean out the FBI. And now, if Trump were to be elected president, presumably he would do that. Presumably, if he were elected president, he would do that. The question is, can he get elected president? Again, this always comes down to who holds the levers of power. And once the person who holds the levers